If you think there's nothing scary about Peppa Pig, you're totally wrong. Do you have the guts to uncover the creepy things happening in Peppa's world without you even noticing? Have you ever noticed that Mr. Wolf might actually be a werewolf? In the episode The New House, we find out that Mr. Wolf really wants to eat Daddy Pig. He even asks where Peppa's family lives because that's a direct reference to the story of the big bad wolf who wants to eat the piglets. The idea of him being a werewolf comes from the episode about Wendy Wolf's birthday, when her family chose to have the party on a full moon night. When Peppa asks why, Wendy answers that there's only one thing to do on a full moon night: howl like a wolf. Normal wolves howl whenever they need to, but werewolves do it specifically on full moon nights. And you know there are some magical characters in Peppa's world, like Santa Claus and Madame Gazelle, who might actually be a vampire. So does this mean the entire wolf family are werewolves? It would make sense, because in that case they'd be villains in the series, which explains why Mr. Wolf really does want to devour Daddy Pig. But you don't have to be scared, because it's time to grab your popcorn and a nice cold drink. Another Cinewave is starting now. Still talking about Mr. Wolf, do you remember how we mentioned that he's a reference to the villain in the tale of the Three Little Pigs? In the episode The New House, he gets close to the building Daddy Pig built and tries to blow it down. That's a huge nod to the big bad wolf from the children's tale, but it could also be a big clue about what happened to Daddy Pig's parents and maybe even a missing brother. If the show is using this reference, maybe Daddy Pig's parents were eaten by some big bad wolf who blew their house down. And since the story is about three little pigs, maybe Daddy Pig once had another brother besides Uncle Pig, who also lost his life in Wendy's family's attack. That's why Daddy Pig tells Mr. Wolf that his house is made of bricks and warns him not to try anything. Peppa's dad already knew the danger his family was facing. So creepy. Did you know Peppa Pig might actually be based on a real story that happened in England more than 50 years ago? If you look closely at the show's art style, you'll notice that Peppa and her friends look a lot like drawings made by a child. Exactly, because they were. The creators of Peppa Pig, Neville Astley, Mark Baker, and Phil Davies, were inspired by a real story of a little girl who lived on a farm in the East Anglia region. The girl loved her father's pigs, especially the biggest one, which became the inspiration for Daddy Pig. But the little girl didn't want the animals to be turned into food. She loved drawing her pet pigs, and this detail is super important because those drawings are what the creators used to shape the cartoon. Unfortunately, the little girl believed too much in her bond with the pigs and came up with a plan to set them free. In the story, she went to the pen where her father kept the pigs and opened it, but the biggest one attacked her and ate her alive. This terrifying story turned into a legend, and the creators used her drawings as the basis for the show. Creepy, right? Do you believe in this theory? The truth is, Peppa Pig has been a super successful show for over 20 years since it first aired on TV. But as you already know, the show has one big problem: time. We could say Peppa's world has been frozen for more than 20 years, and while it makes sense to keep her a child, there's still a big flaw in the story. Across more than 300 episodes, there are over 6 Christmas specials where Santa Claus visits Peppa and her friends, and yet Peppa and all the other kids are still the exact same age. Ignoring our real-world logic, the characters in the series are literally stuck in time. And this might actually be Grandpa Rabbit's fault. Yep, he's a mad scientist who claims to be over 100 years old. He said this in the episode Treasure Hunt, when Peppa found a glass bottle with a message that Grandpa Rabbit wrote back when he was just a kid. The theory says Grandpa Rabbit, who's already very old, used his science experiments to freeze time and keep himself alive. Doesn't that sound convincing? Would you like to live in Peppa's town? Comment #pig so we can connect. Another wild theory about Grandpa Rabbit's crazy science says he might have cloned Susie Sheep. In the episode The Future, we see Susie wearing pajamas with an anchor design, which is the exact same design on Grandpa Rabbit's wool cap. But how do we know Grandpa Rabbit actually did this? Easy. Remember the episode where they travel to New York and Miss Rabbit says there's a Miss Rabbit in every city? But Miss Rabbit is Grandpa Rabbit's daughter, which means he's the father of thousands of Miss Rabbits, right? Yes and no. Grandpa Rabbit used science to clone his own daughter and spread copies of her around the world. Let's not forget that the Miss Rabbit we know has a twin sister, Rebecca's mom. So Grandpa Rabbit had 2 daughters but made thousands of clones of just one of them. But why? The answer is simple. All the Miss Rabbits run businesses that make a lot of money all over the world. And what does this have to do with Susie? In the episode George's New Clothes, Miss Rabbit tries to sell George a wool coat, which means the rabbit family uses sheep's wool to make clothes. And you've never seen Susie's dad. In fact, there isn't a single male sheep in Peppa's world. They're all female, which is a huge clue that Susie's family only exists to be used as a source of profit. Pretty creepy theory, right? Now here's something about Peppa's world. Daddy Pig suffers a lot, and maybe he's actually a sad character because of it. And most of the time, it's Peppa's fault. Could this actually be revenge for that pig from the real-life story who ate the little girl? Do you remember the episode where Grandpa Pig built a treehouse for his grandkids and Peppa made up a password that was a mean joke about Daddy Pig's big belly? Or the time when the characters forced Daddy Pig to run an entire marathon by himself to raise money for fixing the school roof? Let's not forget all the kids of the adults studied there, but only Daddy Pig was made to suffer. Or even worse, when the Pig family completely forgot Father's Day and Mommy Pig said it wasn't an important day. To make it crueler, Peppa and George baked him a disgusting cake mixing cereal, ketchup, and cheese. And don't forget the day Daddy Pig fell out of a plane because of Peppa. She's the one who said their parents had parachuted without even checking. Daddy Pig suffers a lot, and that's pretty scary, don't you think? Have you ever noticed there's a character who never talks to Peppa? Her name is Claire Cow, and she's Mrs. Cow's daughter. She shows up a few times, like the day the Pig family spent a day at the shopping center, or when Peppa's class went to visit London. She's also sitting in the audience during Mr. Potato's Christmas play. But there's a theory that says Mr. Bull got rid of the little cow so he could marry her mom. And we know this because the calf isn't at their wedding ceremony. The show makes it clear there isn't a single little cow among the guests. Who would be missing from their own mother's wedding? Could Mr. Bull have something to do with this? In the episode The Future, we find out that Freddie Fox wants to become a police officer, and there's a theory that says this could be a big problem for his family. Freddie's dad is a thief. He sells stolen goods, and the poor pup knows it. The theory says Peppa's friend might end up arresting his own father in the future. That's creepy, don't you think? Even creepier is if you're still not subscribed to the channel or haven't hit the notification bell yet. Wow. And everyone knows about the theory of Peppa's twin sister, Olivia Pig, which is a huge mystery. There's an official photo released by Peppa's creators that show a piglet inside the house while the Pig family is standing outside. In the story Peppa vs. George, we see a piglet wearing red shoes and a flower dress fighting with George, but in the very next scene, the piglet is back in her normal outfit. This makes fans believe Peppa has an evil twin sister who never leaves the house. Creepy. Could the Pig family really be hiding another daughter? If anyone's hiding something, it's definitely Danny Dog's dad, because in the episode Captain Dog, he says he'll never go back to the sea again, even though he's a sailor. But in one of his flashbacks, in the episode Danny's New Room, we see that he came across a sea monster, which means there are giant and very dangerous creatures in Peppa's world. Danny's dad knows about them, but he hasn't told anyone. Will the monsters ever attack? One of the most famous theories in the Peppa world is that Madame Gazelle is a vampire. At the Halloween party, we see her standing in front of a mirror, but she has no reflection. On top of that, the narrator himself notices she has no reflection, and that's one of the classic signs of a vampire. Could this really be proof that she's a dangerous monster? Peppa might be in danger. And finally, a recent theory about the show says George might end up abandoned now that Evie was born. Some fans believe he'll have his place taken by his little sister. George hasn't been getting as much attention from his parents since Evie was born, but could that just be because she's still a baby? Whatever the truth is, you can be sure you'll find it right here with us. We've got 2 more videos lined up for you to enjoy. We'll see you in the next one. Until then,